Hello everyone, hope you are enjoying this module so far. So again, this module is all about facilitating the holistic development of babies, toddlers and young children. And in the first section, we were talking about using developmentally appropriate activities, and we also spoke about responding to the cues from children. So the next section will focus on facilitating without bias and cultural sensitivity, also managing children in a way that promotes development and also communicating responsively. So first of all, I want to touch on facilitating without bias and cultural sensitivity. So in some of the previous modules, we've learned about taking an anti-bias approach in your classrooms. In other words, creating environments where children learn about different cultural groups, different races, different genders, making sure that our resources resemble that. So one thing that I want to highlight from this module is the importance of understanding the different cultures that your children in your classroom are coming from. So understanding their cultures, understanding their backgrounds. Although we don't always know these things, it would be really a good idea for you to get to know the cultures that they're coming from, because what is happening in their cultures might be different from what is happening at your ECD centers. And just a simple example, for example, language. So the language that children are using at home are possibly different from the language that you are using at school, and this ultimately affects their development. So very important to pay attention to that. Also to focus on understanding the children's abilities and possibly also the disabilities. So this helps you to understand what children need, and also to ensure that they develop continuously. So with regards to this, it's also important to pay attention to how you communicate and what you say and how you say things about differences and disabilities. So the way we speak about these things in our classrooms ultimately affects the children. So we need to be aware of the children's backgrounds, their cultures, their abilities and disabilities. So it is important for you to take note of the 4 steps in your notes about working without bias. The first step is that you as a facilitator should develop an awareness of your own biases. So we all have biases, and we've spoken about this in the modules before, where we grow up differently. So you need to make use of your support groups, your staff support groups at school, to talk about these things and challenges that you are facing with regards to culture. The second step is to explore and enlarge the children's input about diversity. So have these conversations in your classrooms about differences, about disabilities, explore what the children are thinking, and also encourage them to learn further from you and from the resources at your center. So the third step is to draw the parents into your center. Remember, parents are a very important learning resource, and also find out from the parents what are their cultures about. Look into these things and get to know your parents and the cultures that they belong to. On step 4, also anti-bias approach, always important to make sure that your resources in your classroom are facilitating an anti-bias atmosphere. So the next section is about managing children in a way that promotes development. So this means that the way we work with children, what we say, how we say things, the approach that we take. In other words, we need to be warm and caring and nurturing towards the children that we are responsible for in our classrooms, in our ECD centers. And I want to illustrate this to you, the importance thereof, through an example of a flower. We all know flowers are beautiful. Some people like flowers, others don't, but they are still very beautiful. So flowers are only able to grow and be as beautiful as they are made to be if they grow in healthy soil, if they are looked after, if they get the needed care. So if someone waters them properly or regularly, takes out the weeds from the grass, so in the soil that they are growing from. So just like a flower that needs care and nurture and a positive growing environment, this is what will happen to children if we provide them with a nurturing, a positive environment and a caring environment. So it all comes down to the way we speak to them, what we do, how we respond to them, paying attention to them, listening to them, responding, all of those things. And we know that it builds self-esteem. So in an environment where children feel good about themselves and they feel confident, and where people believe in them, we know that they are much more comfortable to take risks and try new things. So that will benefit their development. So we need to look at how we speak to children And it is really important for us to focus on the positive things. And I'm thinking of an example such as your classroom rules. How often do we say that don't talk or don't run or don't be rude? Instead of saying don't do this, let's try and rephrase things in a more positive way and saying be kind to one another. So be careful in the classroom instead of don't run or don't this. So we need to try and change our mindsets and in how we speak to children, and the language that we use, and how we are as practitioners. Are we positive? Are we looking for the children's strengths? Are we responding in a positive way? Are we praising them? Okay, so that's very important. So another thing that is important about praise is that we need to be very specific when we praise children. Okay, so if we say good job, make sure that you identify what was good about it. So you draw very nicely, your picture is very colorful. Okay, so be very specific. And another thing that we need to be careful of is to create unrealistic expectations in children. So we often say that you're the star of the class. So we need to be careful with this, because it oftentimes set unrealistic expectations, and it puts a lot of pressure on children. So praise is good, very, very good. We need to find those positive things that children are doing, and we need to train ourselves to look for the strengths rather than continuously focusing on the negative. So we want to get children used to doing more of the positive, and that's why we need to be focusing on the positive. So look at all of those things in your notes as well. And the last section I want to get to just very briefly is communicating responsibly. So communication, we know we can't do anything without being able to communicate, because we need a language, and in order for us to grow and develop in all the areas of our lives and reach our potential, we need to have good communication. We need to be able to communicate. And most of your work as an ECD practitioner is communication. Whether it's verbal or non-verbal, you're always communicating with children. And the way we do it also sets the tone for how children will be able to communicate and respond. So we know that they need to learn language, they need to learn life skills, they need to listen to instructions. So we need to be very mindful of the fact that our communication with children is extremely important. So there's so many opportunities throughout your day to communicate with children. Like if we look at your daily plan, from the moment that they arrive until they go home, there is always opportunity to communicate with children, and we need to make use of those opportunities. Children learn language, they learn vocabulary, new words, they learn how to speak and how to engage if they are hearing communication from you. So we need to make sure that we use those opportunities. Even if it's toilet time, there's always time to communicate. Even if you're changing a baby's nappy, there's time to communicate. So, and no matter how young children are, no matter how old they are or young, or even if it's just babies, we should never underestimate the importance of communication. So one or two other things that's really important about communication is that you need to pay full attention. Children know when you're not paying attention, when you're not really listening. So very important to listen and respond to children in a positive way, and find things to communicate with. And two skills that you can use is open-ended questions. When you ask the what, the why, the when, so that they can give you more information. And another thing you can use is the leading question. So maybe a leading question is like you leading the discussion in a way. So for example, asking, what have you done yesterday? Oh no, I was playing games. So then you can ask a leading question and saying, so tell me more about the games that you played. So that's leading them in the direction of telling you more about the game. So talk with children throughout your day and make use of books and pictures to engage with children. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you need any support.